Okay, so to be a games designer, it's a multi-skilled role, requires a lot of things such as a thorough understanding of gameplay theory, understanding of storytelling, and need to have kind of narrative development skills. So it's very good if you have got some experience in kind of script writing or storytelling, or if you read a lot, it's actually a good role for you. The best games designers I know are the ones who just kind of read a huge amount of stuff and they're just interested in everything. Some of the game designers I've had up to deliver talks at Teesside they've researched to see what's in the area before they've come up here, and then had me take them out to Whitby, to the historic quay in Hartlepool, and all these places, because they've got an interest in those things. Like they wanted to see the Trincomalee of the historic quay in Hartlepool, to kind of see a warship and how that works. So they're constantly looking for inspiration around them. Excellent communication and presentation skills, because you've got to put down all of your ideas in a kind of really understandable format for the rest of the team. You've got to be clear at expressing yourself so there can be kind of no misunderstandings among the team. Ability to work as part of a team and independently, that's important pretty much for any role you take in the games industry. Systematic and strategic thinking, and imagination and creativity, obviously. Okay, any questions about game designs before we can move on to some of the roles? Okay. Games programmers, they're kind of best paid people in the games industry. A lot better paid than the artists and the designers, unfortunately. Programmers have various roles and specialisms, so you'll have your AI programmers, the ones who kind of work out how everything else is going to react to the player. So in car racing games, they'll work out the AI of the other vehicles, what are the other vehicles going to do if you drive straight towards them, will they veer out of the way? So they'll work all of that out. The game engine development, so that takes an awful lot of work actually to write a games engine, just to get it kind of working with the particular game that you've created. Once an engine's developed, that's why you get so many sequels from a games company, because once they've built the engine, it's kind of a lot easier for them to create a whole series of games using the same engine, but just tweaking slightly each time. So that's kind of why we all get stuck into making car game after car game after car game. User interface. Usually you'll have, do you know what I mean by front end? Right. Okay, when you start up your computer game, the first pages you get the interface where you kind of just picking all of your options before you launch in the game itself. That's the front end, and it's the kind of HUD, the hood in the game itself. But you will have a program assigned to actually create a kind of really good working front end interface and then an in-game user interface as well. So black and white. The only thing actually in the interface is the hand of God that you've got there in the centre of the screen. Do you all know black and white? So like the interface, that's just the interface. It looks really simple. It's just a hand, but the programmers had to do so much work to actually get that working so well, because you could you navigate through the world by kind of just reaching with the hand and kind of pulling your way through it. Tools development, so programmers often create a lot of little tools that will make jobs a lot easier for the artists, so it's good to be kind of on the good side of the programmers. You'll often have as well, I don't think I mentioned this in the presentation, but a very rare person is a technical artist. You don't get many of them, and they're better paid than normal artists because they're artists that actually understand programming, which is why they're very few and far between. And they'll work between the artists and the programming department to set the programmers all up. The artists need something that's going to make texture in this type of model more effective. The programmers might be able to kind of create a tool to help them with texturing or rigging or something like that. And physics. I don't know if any of you played with the kind of Havok physics engine, which is very nice. So the physics is just kind of working out, just setting it up so that when a character falls, it looks realistic. When objects fall, it looks realistic. If you haven't played about with Havok, see if you can find a video on YouTube. There's all kinds of bizarre videos where people have played with different physics engines. In fact, there's a great one from what's it called, Crysis. I don't know if any of you have seen the kind of, you guys seem to have seen all this footage. The footage from Crysis, where people are kind of playing about with the kind of the physics in Crysis, just stacking up, I think it's something like 4 million barrels and then exploding them. So that's quite impressive. Yes, so the programmers are all overseen by the lead programmer, who's responsible for the technical specification of the game and manages the overall code development process. Are any of you programmers in here? Alright, we won't spend too long on this part of it then. And it's the lead programmer that kind of makes all of the rules for the artists as well. You know, they'll look at the kind of capabilities of the new platforms and then sort of tell the artists what they can and can't do. So they'll tell you the kind of texture sizes you want to work to. They'll tell you the kind of polygon limits you want to work to as well. And they'll tell you off if you go over them. So, job as a games programmer, you're looking at a kind of degree in physics, maths or computer science, but any degree involving substantial programming, preferably in C++, will suffice. All programmers start in the industry with a proven ability to program in C++, so you need to be able to prove that before you even get a job. And companies will usually ask for some kind of demo or they'll give you a test. In fact, you can get art and design tests as well to work through. I know Codemasters Swine's actually besetting really difficult tests for people to work through. I know some people went for an art job there and they were kind of sat down and were kind of told, right, okay, 5 minutes, draw a box. 2 minutes, draw something you find in a jungle, draw something heavy, draw something light. You have to work through all of that. I think the programmer's test is quite extreme for Codemasters as well. They need to have sound knowledge of contemporary game hardware platforms as well as the latest software development techniques. Okay, so we'll move from programming onto the art side of things. Okay, so the artists will work from the concept artist drawings to create the visual elements like characters, scenery, objects, vehicles, street furniture, buildings, surface textures, and often the interface elements as well. You'll usually have an artist working with the interface programmer to create the front end of the game as well. Loads of roles within the art department. You've got your 3D modelers, your character artists. Some companies will use separate 3D modelers and texture artists as well and have them working together. That's how the company I worked at worked for quite a while. Every 3D artist had a texture artist assigned who would create everything for them. And your environment builders who will create the whole environment itself. So each has responsibility for particular assets within the game, but there can be movement within roles, between roles actually. I kind of pushed to move into a lot of different roles while I was in the games industry. So while I was employed as an artist and I was 3D modelling and texturing, when the time came to create a new game, I'd kind of pushed to do a bit of the game design, or I'd pushed to do the interface as well. So I kind of made the most of it and moved around a lot within it. Artists must be aware of the technical constraints and capabilities of the platform that the game is for as well. So it's usually the programmer that will kind of give you a technical specification document right at the beginning that kind of tells you, what you can do and what you can't. And then I usually find the artist will then ignore that at first until you then get told off by the programmers, and then you go back and correct everything that you did wrong. They'll also give you strict naming conventions as well for different files, so that the engine can handle them in a particular way. I think this was a character from Test Drive Overdrive that we were working on just the early stages there.